Welcome to Navigating Advocacy, the true crime podcast that goes beyond storytelling to ignite change and seek justice. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Whitney. As true crime enthusiasts turned passionate advocates, we've seen the power of storytelling raise awareness about unsolved crimes and bring hope to victims and their families. We hope to inspire action and promote positive change within the true crime community.
Our mission is simple. We provide a platform for victims and their families to share their stories, to be heard, and find solidarity. But we don't stop there. We offer practical guidance to our listeners on how they can actively make a difference in their own communities.
Together, we can create a wave of change. We're here to empower you to also become advocates for change, no matter where or who you are. We are navigating advocacy.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Welcome to mid February.
Yes, we are here already, about to be Valentine's Day. I hope you guys were able to order those new shirts we had for Valentine's Day. They were so adorable. But if not, I'm sure Whitney will be coming up with something great for the next holiday, Memorial Day. You never know what she can come up with.
Sometimes I get a little creative spurt and I like to throw some new designs out there.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else going on?
No, we look forward to sharing with you guys our action oriented advocacy case we just got back from. So that'll be out soon. Keep an eye out for it. If you are our advocate level Patreon members, that means your swag boxes will be coming soon as well. So check that out. If you're not, go to patreon.com. Check it out for $25 a month. Every quarter, you get a really awesome hand cultivated swag box by us. We're starting something new this year. So actually, I'm not going to mention it. So it can be a surprise for our Patreon members when they're opening their first box this year.
Yes, it's always so much fun. We get so much feedback about the items that are in the swag box, how unique. And I love that we have themes every quarter. This last one that went out in quarter four of
Hmm.
2023 was all travel based. Definitely had some fun picking out those items.
Yep, absolutely. Other than that, we are just jumping straight into Kansas.
All right. Cygne is a city located in Lain County, Kansas. It has a population of just over 1,000, and it is situated in eastern Kansas and definitely has that small town atmosphere with only 1,000 people.
Tiny.
Tiny, tiny. I believe I read that there's one gas station, no grocery stores, no stoplights, and nothing else
Oh my
besides the one.
gosh.
Yes, it's
Just like
tiny.
one stop sign.
Mhm. One notable feature in Cygne is the generating station. It is a coal fired power plant that provides electricity to that region. The plant is one of the area's largest employers and it really impacts the local economy. Most of the people in this area work for this plant. The city is also close to the Cygne Reservoir. It is a popular outdoor spot for fishing and boating. Lots of recreational, outdoorsy opportunities there. The main occupation in this town involves physical labor. So Cygne is generally considered to be a blue collar town. I also thought it was interesting that the average commute for the residents of Cygne is almost 34 minutes, which is quite a bit over the national average. Obviously, we don't commute anywhere for our job, but I just remember being so frustrated by that period of my life.
Yes, my commute is 16 stairs from
Yes, it's
upstairs to
so nice,
downstairs.
so nice. I couldn't get the crime stats from Neighborhood Scout like we normally do because this town was so small and it wanted me to pay for it. And I said, no, no, we don't do that. um, because you can find them in other places. And luckily, I found this other site that showed the town was relatively safer than most others. So Cygne has a violent crime rate of 15.6, when the US average is 22.7. And then the property crime was a 22.4 when the US average was a 35.4. So,
Okay.
relatively safe in this small town. However, there's always a but, and we know it. In 2004, a young Black man was at a party in this small town and never made it home alive. And that is why we are navigating advocacy in Lawson, Kansas this week. Alonzo Brooks was born on May 19th, 1980, to parents Billy Brooks Sr. and Maria Ramirez. He was the youngest of 5 children in this family. He was born quite a few years after his 4 older siblings, so to say he was the baby of the family is an understatement. Alonzo grew up in Topeka, Kansas, and then in his early 20s, he moved to Gardner, Kansas to live by his mother. She had moved to this town after Alonzo's dad and her had gotten divorced. Alonzo was 23 years old and working at Countryside Maintenance as a custodian. He was described as a mild manner and a good humored guy. He was a homebody who would much rather hang out with his family than anything else. His mom would admit that she babied him, but that's because he was just so much younger than his siblings. I just love it when moms admit that. Like, it's so hard to admit it. I don't baby him. I let him stand on his own feet, but you're like, no.
Like, I
I
don't have a favorite kid, but this one's gonna live at home with me forever.
fine if I pay his bills.
Yeah.
He's just a baby. So I tried to find how big or how tall Alonzo was because from his pictures, he looks like a giant teddy bear, and I don't know if this is true or not or just, like, what I felt like when I looked at his pictures, but he also has these super kind eyes, and they just have, like, this softness about him. So, I picture him as this big burly guy, like, over 6 foot tall, but I have no idea if that's really what he looks like.
Pictures are always about perspective too, so
Yes. So Alonso liked to watch sports with his friends if he was feeling a bit social, but he really loved his low key life. So when Alonso, whose nickname was Zoe to those close to him, decided to go to a party with some friends, which was about an hour away, it was weird, but also not entirely out of character for this young man. I mean, he wasn't a normal partier, but every now and then he's just like, hey, let's cut loose, hang out with some friends, meet some new people. So on April 3rd, 2004, friends Justin, Daniel, and Tyler picked Alonzo up and made their way to Lain. Tyler and Daniel were in a separate vehicle, though, but these are mainly the people that Alonzo would know at the party. This was an hour away. Yes, this town and Gardner kind of had the same people there, but not necessarily knew all of the people that were going to be at this party. Also, because it ended up having over 100 people, which seems like my worst nightmare, but to other
that's
people
10%. That's 10% of the population of that town.
exactly.
That's a lot of people for a party.
A lot of people, and all these people were basically between the ages of 16 and 25. So this isn't like a family party with grandmas, grandpas, uncles. This is like a full-blown I don't wanna say frat party because obviously not, but this is just like a house party with a lot of young people there.
Wow. Wow.
I know, I know. I'm like, "Oh, that does not sound like a good time to me." I like parties where you can wear your pajamas
Yes.
and they have a movie playing. Hey, some drinks, it's all good, but so everyone, including Alonso, seemed to be having a good time. There were apparently some people who were upset for the sole fact that Alonso was a black man. So they started saying racial slurs, and there were reports that there was an altercation between one of these people and Alonso that had to be broken up. I wanna mention this is a predominantly white area. There was only 3 Black individuals, one being Alonzo, at this party. After a bit, everything seemed to calm down with whatever altercation was happening, and everyone was once again enjoying the party. But you know how it goes when you get to a party that big. You mingle, chat with people, you kinda lose sight of your friends for a bit, then you catch up with them later, and this is what was happening with Alonso and his friends. He wasn't necessarily sticking right by their side, everyone was kinda having a good time going in and out, that type of thing. And for one reason or another, all of Alonso's friends would end up leaving and leaving him there. Tyler and Daniel left to go to another party around 12:30, and Justin says he went to get cigarettes but ended up breaking down and not returning. Justin told authorities that he had called another friend named Adam to ensure Alonzo had gotten a ride home since he wouldn't be coming back to the party. However, this Adam either would never find Alonzo or by the time he did, Alonzo wasn't there. Apparently, there was a bunch of misunderstandings and a lack of communication that night, possibly, or could it have been something more sinister? Because somehow no one ended up knowing where Alonzo was at to give him a ride home. The next day, when a friend calls Alonzo's house, his mother, with whom he shares a house with, answers the phone. And they ask for Alonzo, like, "Hey, I just wanna make sure he got home. I'm just checking in on him." So she goes to Alonzo's room only to find that he never came home that night. And this was very out of the ordinary for Alonzo. He was, again, an introvert. He liked to only sleep in his bed. He was not about to be sleeping anywhere else. So, this raised so many red flags right away, and I absolutely love this because so many times you hear about, like, lower 20s, "Oh, they'll be home in a day or 2," but no, Alonzo's mom was, like, legit getting she was blowing the blowhorn for everyone to hear her son something was wrong. So his mom's getting nervous, so she calls a friend from Topeka named Rodney to go back out to the party house with Justin and one of Alonzo's brothers to see if they can find him. Alright, maybe he drank too much, he's passed out, we'll go find him at this house. So while they're out at this party house and remember well, maybe not remember because I didn't explain it, but this house is way out in the country. It's got one of those long driveways. If you're looking at an aerial view of this property, you only see this house. Like, I don't know how close the next neighbors were, but it was not like a
Oh,
suburb or in a city.
okay.
Yeah. Very lots of room around
Rural.
the property. Rural, yes. While out at this party house, the are searching, looking for any sign of Alonso, and they end up finding one of Alonso's boots laying in the grass by the entrance to the property. This is terrifying because why would his boots be out there just like that? Out I don't know how far the entrance, the driveway to the house, but it's a good distance. I mean, I'm just gonna throw out like 100 yards or something, but maybe not 100 yards, but it's a ways.
That's a football
His
field.
Yeah, maybe like half of the ball field, but his boot is all the way at the entrance of the property on the grass, so, like, where you would turn onto the road.
Okay.
They continue searching. They end up finding the other boot across the street from the entrance, and they also find his hat. This is just looking like something out of a horror flick where you're just finding pieces of clues and no sign of the person you're actually looking for. I do have a photo of where these items were located compared to where the house was, so we'll definitely put that on our website for you to see because it makes an impact. It's a bit away from the house. Another friend of Alonzo's named Dane and another brother named Stuart, they would go to the house to speak to the people inside, asking questions about that night and if they had seen Alonzo, that kind of thing. Those people were less than helpful. They said they didn't know anything, they didn't know about all the people, they don't remember seeing anybody, that kind of and so that summed up that. So Maria, after hearing about the items found and no sign of Alonzo, she would try, of course, to make the official missing persons report and be told the normal, "Oh, you have to wait 24, 48 hours." But eventually, it would get submitted after that couple of days of the family searching on their own. The police would go out to the house and they conducted their own search. They did not find anything. The KBI, or the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, takes over the case because they have the resources that Alonzo's disappearance needs. I mean, they have the K-9 unit and special investigators. Thankfully, this sheriff's department was like, "Hey, we need a little bit of help. We can't find literally anything. Let's get some more resources out here." By April 10th, so this is just about a week after Alonzo went missing from that house party, the FBI got involved in this missing persons case. 40 FBI agents were assigned to the case. And I just wanna stop and just say this is awesome. So many times we hear of certain cases, like Alonzo's, not being investigated the way that other cases are. So the fact that this
Mhm.
one was getting attention and being taken seriously is honestly how things should be, and I hate that I even have to stop and be like, "Oh, let's give praise to this," but we don't
Right.
see it enough.
We do not see it near not even close to enough.
So the reason the FBI got involved so quickly is because it was starting to look like Alonzo could have been the victim of a hate crime that was racially motivated, which would be a federal offense. So that would be their jurisdiction versus the sheriff's or even the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. After conducting these interviews with the party goers, that's how they kind of are thinking along those lines because of the racial slurs, because of what the people in this town were saying, and the rumors that were honestly running wild because I read a few and I'm like, holy crap. One of the reasons they needed so many investigators' help was the large number of interviews that had to be conducted. Considering there was close to 100 people at the party, that is time consuming, but also a very necessary process, to get all their statements and then re-interview them to make sure nothing changed or no new information. So that takes a lot of manpower, to say the least. They conducted aerial searches, ground searches, they brought out scent dogs, and even searched large ponds in the area with no sign of Alonzo. On May 1st, 2004, a large search party was organized with just over 50 participants, and this was mainly Alonzo's friends and family. They went back to where it all started. They went to the house party and started to search there. For people that have been on searches, like just because you search one area, it's easy to miss things, especially if there's a lot of foliage. This is, April, May timeframe, so things are starting to grow and a lot's going on. Within an hour to an hour and a half of searching, Alonzo's family is the ones who stumbled upon his deceased body. It was caught in branches and brush in a creek. This creek is just 100 yards from the party house.
Wow.
And I'm sure you guys are shouting while listening to this, asking how could they have had that many people searching for almost a month with those tracking dogs, foot searches, huge law enforcement present? How in the freaking world did they not find him? Well, I'm asking myself, obviously, those same questions as I'm researching, and I still don't know. There are some theories that we will talk about in just a bit, but this particular area had been searched before, this creek, and the fact that no one saw him. And his family stated he was in plain sight. He was right on top of the where the bank to this creek is.
Does this creek have a current?
So, it did at this time. It would flood and then dry up, flood and dry up, and we'll talk about that as well.
Okay.
Alonzo was found fully clothed, obviously without his boots or hat on. The family reported that there wasn't a strong odor coming from his body, and they also said that the cards in his wallet were dry, even though the medical examiner had said his body was in the water most likely since the night of the party. The medical examiner would also rule his death undetermined because of the state of decomposition. However, his family would say that the body wasn't as decomposed as they would assume after being out in the elements a month. So there's like contradictory on that. They were able to say that Alonzo didn't have any sign of blunt force trauma. He had no broken bones. They were also able to determine that he did not drown either. They were unable to determine if he had been strangled because of the state that his body was in when they found him. So honestly, there's not much to go on. And sometimes it's difficult to get the resources that are needed in particular cases if it's not classified as a homicide. Like if it's undetermined, they almost do a like, okay, case is going to have to be closed because what is there to investigate if they're not able to determine that
Well,
some.
I'm
Mhm.
to from what you've told me so far, there has to be some form of foul play suspected, right? Because how did he end up in the creek and his shoes end up by the road? How far apart are these two things? If the creek is 100 yards from the house and the road is a decent driveway length from the house, they're not side by side. So there's got to be
Yeah,
some answer
no.
as to that, right?
Yeah, you can almost think of it as triangle. We've got the point of the house, the point of the end of the road, and then the other triangle almost kinda evenly would be the creek. I mean, it
So
probably was a suspicious death at the very
okay.
least,
Okay.
but there really wasn't much to go on, especially if the people at the party aren't talking and they can't find a cause of death. Obviously, where he was at the creek was not the crime scene where he was murdered, if he was murdered.
But
So, like,
it's not
they.
an accidental drowning because he didn't
Exactly,
drown.
exactly.
Hmm.
But the fact that they can't figure it out is just so frustrating. So for the next 15 years, nothing happened in Alonzo's case. And I only wanna say it was closed because in 2019, the FBI and the Kansas US Attorney's Office reopened the case. So, I
Well,
didn't
that's
see.
positive.
Yeah, I didn't see anywhere where it said it was closed because of this, but the fact that they said reopen must have classified it as closed at one point to even say that they're reopening it. With the technological advances over that decade and a half, law enforcement felt that they had a decent shot at finding out what happened that night. In June of 2020, the FBI announced a $100,000 reward for the arrest and conviction of the person responsible for Alonzo's death. They also said they had new leads. This is when we learn of a second party that was close to the first party, and apparently there was some type of altercation at this one as well. And either people from one party ran over to the other party or vice versa. I'm not quite sure which way it happened, but some stuff
Is
was going
this
down.
is this the party that his friends left to go to?
I am not for sure about that.
Oh,
I did
okay.
wonder that as well. I just couldn't find that if that was for sure or
Sure.
not. But I'm like, good lord, there's
How
a
many parties could
thousand
be on the
people.
same night in this small town?
Seriously, that's what I'm thinking. If usually those towns, like if you're having a big party, hey, you're having the party this night, I'll do it the next night so that
Mhm.
everyone goes. But apparently that's not what they did. That's really all we know about the second party. And that's only because law enforcement came out asking for the public's help for those at the second party to come forward. They didn't really say anything else if who was related, who they were speaking to. It was just like, hey, we know about a second party that night. If you were there, please come forward. We'd like to talk to you. July 22nd, 2020, authorities exhume Alonzo's body. I feel like this is a step rarely taken by police because I honestly I can only imagine the cost associated with it. And it's honestly
Mhm.
not a guarantee that they'll find new evidence either. But we don't
Mhm.
hear about law enforcement exhuming the body a lot.
Not often. Like you said, how it may not be that easy to pull evidence that you don't already have from the decedent.
Yeah. However, in Alonzo's case, they decided it had to be done because they wanted a new autopsy in hopes of finding new evidence. The remains were sent to Dover Air Force Base for further analysis. This round, they found injuries that wouldn't have been caused by decomposition, and his death was finally ruled a homicide. Now, I said I would get into theories of why Alonzo wasn't found earlier, considering he was so close to the party house and this area had been searched before. Well, like you had mentioned about, the water f what oh my god, now why do I forget this
The
word every
current.
time? The current, I'm like, the freaking flow of the water, what is that called? Okay. Like you had mentioned before, the current, that particular creek had flooded 3 times in the 27 days that Alonzo was missing. So, up and down, yes, there would be a current if it's flooding, and so he could have been dumped somewhere else, and because of the flooding, his body possibly pushed downstream. He eventually gets caught in branches and brush, and that's where he stays. However, his family thinks he could have been kept somewhere else and then moved to the creek. Um, Especially after 3 weeks after the police initially go out there and do all the searching, and then whoever had done this could have been like, "Hey, it's already been searched. It's free to just go put him anywhere because it's already been searched."
Mhm.
And they didn't necessarily think that it would be searched again. I'm not quite sure.
Were they able to figure out a time of death? There's science that can happen as that
Mhm.
they can calculate due to the weather to give you a broad spectrum of when he could have died based on weather, decomposition, etcetera. Did they know that?
They could know that, they have not released it. They are keeping
Okay.
pretty much everything that the information that they found from exhuming his body, they've kept that tight-lipped. He was last seen, between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., so that would be the morning of the 4th, and there was reports that people either saw him running, sprinting down the driveway like he was being chased, possibly dragged down the driveway. There's rumors of really all that type of stuff, and that's maybe why his boots flung off. I'm not quite sure. So his family thinks he could have been somewhere else, moved to the creek after it was searched by authorities. They even think he could have been in a cooler or a freezer area considering the state of the body when they found him. And I mean, they're not experts, but they said he was in decent shape considering he'd been out there for 27 days. There is an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. It's titled No Ride Home that aired about Alonzo's case. And in it, friends and family members speak about Alonzo, including Justin, the friend that left him at the party. This is a very intense situation because Alonzo's mom, Maria, understandably is very upset at Alonzo's so-called friends, and she can't understand why someone would leave their friend like that at the party, considering there was already racial slurs being said to him, altercations. She and the family have also stated publicly that Justin has changed his story multiple times. He's never been charged with anything. And he does have an alibi for that night as well. His car broke down, and after it broke down, I don't know if they got a ride somewhere, what, but Justin would end up taking out $200 from an ATM. That's usually on camera as well. ATM machines, especially in the middle of
Mhm.
the night, will have some kind of a camera. But then him and a different friend went to a strip club where he was later kicked out of said strip club. So first of all, what can you even do in a strip club that gets you thrown out? I
Can't
just
touch the
feel like
girls.
can't touch the girls, but I'm just like, shouldn't you know? So he's pretty much got an airtight alibi for that night. So I don't know. I mean, yes, his story maybe I don't know. But in the documentary, Justin stated, and I quote, "It is my fault. I left him. I don't have any right to be angry about anything his family feels about me. And regardless of how Netflix portrays it and the truth not being shown 100%, that doesn't matter either. Regardless of the death threats and all the bullshit, the fact of the matter is, if it gets this back out into the public's eye, which will eventually get it solved, nothing else matters besides getting Zoe and his family the justice they deserve." So I want to believe Justin. Yes, it was a shitty thing he did leaving his friend there. But I wanna believe him, but that's just like, that person
That's
inside
that
me that's like,
inherent, yeah, that
"Yes,
inherent
I'm
good
like."
inside of you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I understand it from his mother's perspective about being angry at the friends, no doubtably.
Yeah.
From his mother perspective, questioning everyone, even those that were closest to Alonzo, is what I would be doing, honestly, and I hate that for her that she now has to literally judge and question everything, but that's where she's at because she doesn't know what happened that night.
Yeah.
US Attorney Stephen McAllister made a statement when the case was reopening. He said, "It is a quiet place of profound sadness to one who knows its history, but no answers are there. I am convinced, however, that there are people who know the answers. People who have been keeping terrible secrets all these years and bearing a horrible burden." First of all, this dude has a way with words because usually law enforcement is point to the blank. There was just some symmetry going on here in his statement.
Mhm.
He also made a statement about going that he would go periodically to that creek, the spot next to the creek that Alonzo was found and just how silent it was out there, and he's a deep dude, that's for sure. He's no longer in this position as US Attorney for Kansas, but it seems like he really was a true advocate for Alonzo. He's the one that pushed it to be reopened and everything, which I'm just like, I love when law enforcement are like this. Yes, their hands are tied so many times, but then you find these ones that are fighting for true justice. This is where this case stands today.
I do love the truly passionate police officers as well. They're there to get justice, and that's what they truly want. It's not just like a paper job or a day to day. They're out there making a difference.
Exactly. So, I mean, yes, this case has been reopened. I do believe police know a lot more than what they're saying, and they are gathering as much evidence from these interviews and they're re interviewing everyone. So, I really believe that there could be an arrest made in this case. But if you have any information, you are encouraged to call the FBI Kansas City office, and that number is 816-512-8200, or you can call the TIPS hotline at 816-474-TIPS. I just honestly hope Alonzo's family they receive some news soon because I know they have been waiting a very long time.
Yeah. Just by listening to our content, you too are advocating for justice for these families. Thank you for making a difference in their lives as well.
We want to share a few ways you can support us to continue our mission. You can become a Patreon subscriber for as little as $1 per month, or a simple rate and review on your favorite podcast